Welcome to Game Crunch, your weekly video game podcast. My name is Mike Anastasia, and with me today we got Brandon.
Hello.
We were talking about games and things.
Games and some things.
I can look and see.
I haven't written anything yet, and neither have you.
I was talking about Vampire Survivors. That's all that's on there today. Yeah, because that's they put out a new update this week, surprisingly. I don't even know if you saw it. I didn't even realize it.
The Space 54 update?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, the back to space theme stuff. It looks nice. I kind of like the diversity in like the art style and stuff. So it's nice to see, kind of sci-fi things. They have, I think it was something like 2 new characters, 4 new weapons. I think a new stage, a new bonus stage.
Okay.
Just a bunch of different.
They added a lot of stuff. Okay, that's nice.
Yeah, a new artifact. I know they saw. I don't think I got that yet though. Yeah, so a bunch of different things. Always fun. They have a new update. It was just very random too. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and it launched on everything at the same time, which was also a nice surprise, as opposed to the last 3 updates, which were kind of like severely delayed on the Switch. I think usually they've been about like a month behind, so it was kind of nice to be like day and date for once. I think that was part of the reason I was kind of irritated at the end of last year, because everything just took so long to update. Maybe that's why this one came out so long. They're like, oh, it cost us a game. It cost us being on Mike's Game of the Year list. I guess we'll just have to make sure there's console parity. No, I don't know. But it's a lot of fun. I do like the new update, the new stuff that they have always on there. It's just nice to have, kind of new things to look forward to. I definitely like momentum. My momentum definitely has been killed by like that break though. So I'll just go back. I'll play like a match, maybe just like one. And then they'll be like, I'm good for now, and then I'll just go on to whatever else. So that was good. That was the big thing I was playing. What else did I do this last kind of in between episodes? I finished the last kind of main level of Mario versus Donkey Kong, so I unlocked like the bonus stages there. So I got that moving. Played a little more Splatoon 3 side order. Unlocked like a couple new palettes for that, still just kind of like messing around with that when that's available. I'm trying to think. I feel like there was something else, but it was not super exciting. Will I think of it? I don't know. I did. So I don't know. I just thought it was funny just because we were just talking about it last week, because Nintendo was like Moto 3, and then on the Japanese like Nintendo Direct, and then this week they're like, hey, Nintendo fans, how would you feel about badges for Earthbound for your Switch? Because, why not?
Yeah, that's right.
Let's draw attention to what just happened this week. But there's also a new thing that I was just reading about today from those badges, or I don't know what they call them. You know what I'm talking about, those NSO things.
Yeah.
Like those stickers or whatever that you can like use those Nintendo points for. Apparently, now they can put restrictions on them.
What?
Yeah, apparently, you have to have played for certain like games. You have to have played them within a certain amount of time.
What the fuck?
Yeah, to do the things. I didn't look more into this, and I could Google it, maybe. But someone was saying like, yeah, you want to go get the Animal Crossing badges or whatever. Like, it's not only have you had to have played it within a certain amount of time, you had to have played it a certain amount of times within that time frame to be able to do it. Someone was saying like, oh, you had to play like Animal Crossing like 3 times within the last like 3 months to be able to get the pieces for it.
That's so weird.
Oh yeah, here it is. Returning NSO icon elements now require you to play the game of the origin before you can obtain them. Oh, and here's the thing on the Switch. It says play supporting software to be able to return points for rewards that were available in the past. You can get icon elements from games you played on at least 3 separate days within the last 30 days. Play sessions must be at least 24 hours apart.
It's so fucking stupid.
Play sessions will be counted starting February 26, 2024. So, yeah. So they changed I guess they call them icons or whatever. But, yeah, it's pretty crazy. So the only thing that might be nice about it is that, maybe like you can get icons that were like not available. It's like, oh, I played what's a good example? Mario Odyssey. I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, it'd be nice if I wanted some Mario Odyssey icons. They originally came out a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
and they've been out of circulation for a while. So maybe if I start playing again, if they reappear because of that, then that's cool. But if it's just like, hey, whatever they have available at that time, then
This
yeah.
just feels like artificial scarcity for no fucking reason. It's
I don't even
stupid.
feel like artificial scarcity. It just feels like, oh, I just don't understand this. Like I don't even think it's not even it's a very strange limitation. All
Okay,
you're
what
gonna
I
do
meant
is,
was when they removed the ones in the past. I didn't actually know they removed ones in the past. That's what I'm saying. It's like feels like
oh,
artificial scarcity.
they've always been up for like a limited time. Usually, like they'll be up for, I want to say it's something like 10 days. They like cycle them every 10 days,
What
is
the
what it had been.
Okay.
So they've been going through them at a pretty good clip. It'll be like, oh yeah, like 10 days will come through, and then usually they'll be like, all right, well here's the second set of Splatoon icons. Here's the third set of Splatoon icons. So over the course of the month, you might get like three different, waves of Splatoon like
Hmm.
icons, and then the next month they move on to whatever their new release is. So
So if I
um,
were to put on my Splatoon icons during that month, but then take them off later, are they gone? I
no,
guess that's my
once you
question.
have them,
Okay.
you've already redeemed
Oh,
them.
okay.
So
Okay. Okay.
they're there. It's for them to become available again. Then yeah, there's that. I don't. This isn't very clear though. If they reappear, if you like start playing the game, or if it's like now that they're just cycling through old games, whether or
Hmm.
not they're just things you had to have played already. Um,
Oh, okay. All right. I get you.
yeah. So, but still, very dumb. It doesn't make any sense.
No,
It's
it's pretty
basically like,
fucking stupid, to be
yeah, it's
completely
like
honest.
free advertising for them. So I don't. That's a weird
Like, if
one.
they just had ones that you didn't play up there, I mean, people would be like, "Oh, that character looks fucking cool. Maybe I should play that game." But they're like, "Nah."
No, no, you can't do it. Although I think, just kind of the wording for this too. Um, you might be able to do it for new games that are having their icons
Hmm.
released for the first time, and maybe just not returning games. Still strange, but yeah. Because it says redeem points for rewards that were available in the past, which would make you think that it was for things that were already available at one point, and they're just going through and doing it again.
Yeah,
But
that's. I just think that's fucking dumb, honestly.
no, I
Overall,
agree.
it's like
Doesn't
you think of like a Xbox 360 avatars or Xbox One avatars, right? For instance, and those
Mhm.
avatars, like when they came out, it was like now they're out. They stay there. That's it. You're done. You know what I mean? They don't go away. It's just those are now permanently in the library, and anyone can use those once a game releases. And I
Yeah,
felt like I literally thought that was what Nintendo was doing as well. But I'm not surprised Nintendo was doing something stupid.
yeah. Or on the flip side, maybe make it more game specific. If you want to cycle it through, sure. But then it's like for people who maybe missed them before, be like, hey, you know what? You just got Mario Odyssey. Maybe you want some of these icons. Now that you're playing it, these are available for you. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's just still kind of just strange. I don't understand it.
It just seems really like weird. Like there's no reason for
Yeah, and
what
there's
that
no
is.
money value for them. It's not like you can buy them. You're just spending
Yeah.
space bucks on them that you get for free anyways, just for logging in NSO. So yeah, just very strange. Um,
Ugh.
very strange. That's all I can think of though for right now of things to talk about, at least in terms of stuff that I've been playing.
Okay.
What have you been up to?
I've been playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Oh, fun. How is it?
That's a game. It's very good. It is a little bit like overwhelming in my opinion. You know, I may have mentioned this before. When I play a open world game and I see a lot of shit on the map where I see like a large expansive open area, my brain immediately gets overwhelmed by the amount of things there are to do. And I felt like that wasn't a issue with Final Fantasy VII Remake,
Mm-hmm.
but it is a very big issue with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth because essentially you have left Midgar from the ending of Remake, and now you're in the open world area. Like you would have like your random encounters and shit, like when you're on the overworld in the original Final Fantasy VII. That's where you're at now, more or less. And because of that, there's a lot more to the game, and with there being a lot more to the game, there's also like a shit ton of places to go, things to see, and whatnot. And there's a lot. Like there's a lot of different places you can explore, and it gets a little overwhelming, in my opinion. Now that doesn't make it bad, obviously. I think I'm just not the target demographic for large open world games, but I am enjoying my time with this one. So there is that. But yeah, yeah. If you wanted an experience that's similar to the original, I would say it's not. It's a very different feeling game while still being the same game, if that makes any sense. There's a lot of areas where it's like, go do this thing and get this stuff and whatnot to continue elements of the story, or continue things like leveling up your characters and whatnot. And a lot of it has to do with interacting with the open world. And although there was some elements of that in Remake, there's a lot more emphasis on it in Rebirth. So I think if you were to just kind of dash through this game and like make a mad dash for the story and everything, you would be very underwhelmed. I mean, not underwhelmed, but underleveled. And it could be
very different.
Well, no, I mean, okay, so like I was trying to get to that, and it could be underwhelming was going to be the next thing I was going to say, because of the fact that you would be missing out on a lot of content by not going and doing all those other things, if that makes any sense.
Okay, no, that does. I was gonna say, I'm like, oh, very underwhelming.
I said the wrong word first, was all that happened.
Yeah, just the wrong order.
Yeah. I do think this is a really good game, though. I'm really enjoying my time with it.
Is it as good as the first one so far?
I do think it is as good, if not better, than the first one. In fact, in some cases, people, like I said, some people are going to find this to be better than the first one. Myself, I just kind of sick and tired of open world games. So I'm a little on the fence, but I do really enjoy my time with it so far. And the world is at least interesting. There's a lot of stuff to do, but I do feel like I'm doing some of those like Ubisoft checklist where it's like, go here, activate a tower, do a thing, blah, 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 blah. But at least in this, there's a lot of elements that are explained as to why you're doing this, and it makes sense from a gameplay standpoint. So it's not as bad as your Ubisoft climb the tower and do this thing, but it is essentially the same thing in some respects.
Okay.
I do like it though. Like there's a lot of different elements and different things that happen based on what you're doing. So like you got chocobo racing, you've got riding chocobos, you got these elements where you like find these springs and you activate them. When you activate the springs, it allows you to analyze more of the world, and when you're able to analyze more of the world, you're able to find more like side quests and stuff that you can do out in the open world, and that's kind of like going essentially to like Ubisoft's towers and being like, oh, where's my stuff? But at least here it makes sense because you're analyzing the Mako springs and you're able to follow the life springs and find different things that you can do via that, essentially. And it's like, okay, that makes sense, but it still is something that I'm kind of indifferent to. It doesn't really interest me that much, but I feel a need to do it because it does affect my level, and it is going to affect my enjoyment of the game, I think, if I don't do so. So
okay,
I kind of feel compelled to do it because of that.
Yeah.
But while doing so, right, it's not like these are boring things. These are actual like fun activities. You do actually see interesting things. There hasn't been a time when I've gone somewhere and it's been like, yeah, there's nothing here, press a button and leave. There hasn't been a single time where that's happened, and I feel like that happens so many times in Ubisoft and other open world games that it's just like super fucking annoying. So at least they didn't fuck up that part, in my opinion, when it comes to this. So I'm enjoying it. I like it a lot.
Okay, that's good. That's good things.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think the game is very good. I will have to. It'll remain to be seen how I feel about at it later game and the story in general, because like I said, with that large open area, it gives me so much to do that I'm literally am like 11 hours into the game and I've not even gone past chapter 2 because there's
wow.
so much to do. And I did talk to a friend who did the exact same thing as me, and it took him like 14 hours to finish chapter 2 because of the fact that he did the same thing I did.
There's so much to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see where you come down on this one, because remember, you weren't super high on Final Fantasy VII originally.
You're right. You're right. I really wasn't. And I do feel like a lot of that issue for me when it came to Final Fantasy VII was I played the first 11 chapters and I was just kind of fed up with the game. And I was right at the point where it was like, okay, well, here's where the game. Well, I guess I can say this now because it's been 4 years. Final Fantasy VII Remake as well as Rebirth is actually a sequel to the original Final Fantasy VII game. And you don't really find that out until like the very end of Final Fantasy VII Remake. And when you get to that like moment, it's like you have that sort of, oh wow, okay, that's what we're doing. That's neat. So where do we go from here? And then the game ends. So now I'm playing the game where I find out where we go from here. And so far, where we have gone from here is very confusing, but I do have some theories and thoughts, and I am excited to see what they do with it. So I'm enjoying my time a lot more here from a story standpoint because of the fact that I got to experience everything that led up to here, and now I'm having those moments where it's like, this is what I wanted from the game, you know, and I'm having that experience now.
Yeah, that's good. Hopefully, it keeps on continuing to be good.
I'm hoping to. I do have a few other things to mention. You know, my birthday was the other week and whatnot, and I obviously ordered me some things. I actually ended up getting the Sony InZone headphones. You know, yeah, I got them. I got them in. So I got them for super fucking cheap, and I thought, okay, these are gonna be broken. These are gonna be damaged. You know, something or another. What? No, they work perfect. In fact, I'm literally using them right now. I'm even talking to you on the mic with them right now. So I don't know how this mic sounds, or if it sounds different or whatever. But this is
similar. Sounds good.
This is the microphone that is with the Sony InZone headphones, and it is a very. I guess I want to talk about these more or less right now. I'm going to hop over from one thing Sony to another. I think these headphones are excellent. I love the fact that I can do multiple things with it. So it came with this little dongle, right? And the dongle allows you to change between PC and PS5, and I can actually use it to both use my PS5 and PC audio at the same time, and I think it's awesome.
Okay.
I've really been enjoying it. The sounds of this headphone is great. It has like the 3D positional audio, that sort of thing that they have that they used as a selling point for the PS5. That's built into the headset, and it's fucking great. I do like it. I like this a lot, and I have always said when it comes to like sound quality things, like Sony makes some really good fucking headphones. Sony makes some really good sound like quality stuff and whatnot. And this is no different. This is just awesome.
Okay, that's good.
Do I think they should have advertised these during a gaming state of play? No, probably not. Do I think these are awesome and actually kind of justify the price? Yes, absolutely. These are
the price of $45.
Well, I would say even if I had paid full price for these are good enough that I would have accepted that. These are really fucking good. I'm happy I got them for cheaper, but I do think these do justify the price that they are charging for them. Because there's a definite quality here.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's what you want. You want to get what you're paying for, and you want to get decent headphones. And
exactly. So yeah, I've been using those to play Final Fantasy or Rebirth, and they sound excellent with it. So yeah. And really, they sound excellent on PC. Like I hear you right now, and you sound great. Like I can hear everything, and it does have the added effect of allowing you to swap between chat line and game line. So, like for instance, I can press a button a few times, and I turn you down, and I turn up my main PC main line volume instead, which allows me to hear like YouTube videos or games louder than I would hear the voices, or vice versa.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's pretty nice. I mean, really, Sony's never been too bad on hardware. Their biggest problem is usually like they just make it way too expensive for their market.
well, the PlayStation Portal did just release. Let's not go too far.
The PSP?
No, the PS Portal. You know, the thing that's a
Oh,
literal
Portal. I heard
streaming device.
portable.
No, no,
I
no,
was
no.
like, the portable came out like 20 years ago.
No, the PSP is great. So is the PS Vita. But the PS Portal is literally a scam.
Yeah, no, that one's just makes no sense. But I'm sure it's a good piece of technology. It's just dumb. That's the thing.
But it doesn't work, and that's the problem. It doesn't matter. We can talk about that 6 days to fucking Sunday, whatever.
What else you been playing?
I have also been playing more Pacific Drive, which I think is an excellent game as well, and people should definitely check it out. It is one of the most inventive games I've played in a very long time. It is on console, but it's only currently on PS5, so other people have to wait on that. If it does even come to other places, which I don't know if it will, but I will say it is awesome. And I do think that when and if it does come to other consoles, it's something people should definitely check out. This is like one of those game recommendations that I give you where it's like, hey, if this shows up, you should definitely play it because it's excellent. And that's kind of how I feel about this one. You know, the car mechanic simulator horror game, you know, that sort of thing combined together. When you put that together, it gives you a very unique experience I don't think I've ever seen done before. And I don't know, it's just so hard to explain how good and interesting that game is without experiencing it for yourself. So I guess the best thing I could say is if you can play Pacific Drive, you should definitely attempt to play Pacific Drive because it is a very unique experience that will give you something that you haven't seen before in a game. And I think that is awesome.
Okay.
I would love to spoil things or whatever, but I also don't want to spoil anything about that game.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Especially with it being so new.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to ruin it for people. But it looks like it's a fun game. Does it have like a decent story? Is that what you're...
Yes, so I can at least give you a little bit of information about that. So the story is essentially you're like a delivery sort of person of some type that we don't know what it is at the beginning, and you're outside of this condemned area that got condemned due to just some nuclear fallout and that sort of deal. And I believe I have explained this somewhat before in the past, but I will give you more information now. That nuclear fallout has caused like weird phenomenons to happen, essentially. So think like the Metro games, where you've got like weird beings that don't really make any sense, or you've got random weather effects or whatever that also make no sense. That's essentially what you're getting here, but you're able to get out of your car and like break down items and scavenge and survive and that sort of thing like you would in any normal survival game. But your main means of survival is a car that isn't technically a car and is actually possessed by one of those beings that are inside the place and is slowly causing you to become obsessed with it. So like it is imprinted essentially into the car, and it's actually a living being that has been created due to all the like radiation and random weird shit that's going on inside this place that you have been trapped inside of. And the essential plot is you need to go from point A to B, finding the stuff that you need to do so that you can create a better vehicle, make your car better, that maybe like using you to like escape or what have you or whatever, because we don't really know if this is going to work. We're just told it might and that it should.
Yeah.
But we don't really know the people that are talking to us. We just know some dude on a radio is talking to us and telling us essentially what we need to do and explaining how this world works. And we just kind of have to accept it. And I think the good and like horror aspects of this game that makes it different is the fact that everything is so unknown and foreign that you have to kind of explore the world to understand things as they come at you. And until you experience something, you don't really know what's going to happen because this world is so different from any normal world, and you don't really know what you're getting yourself into. It's a lot of showing and exploration more so than just telling you.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
Makes it a little bit more natural that way.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you get that uneasy feeling because you don't know what things do when you first meet them. So the actual fear comes from your imagination, essentially, like filling in the blanks as to what might happen with this, that, and the other that you are just now experiencing for the first time. And I think that makes it an excellent game.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so yeah, I was playing some of that, and I've been really enjoying that one. And then I've also, like I said, I've been playing a lot of Rebirth now, like 12 hours in, essentially.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, other than that, I have not done anything. I watched a pay-per-view that was really good. Do you remember a wrestler called Sting?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was his last match, and I watched a pay-per-view that had his last match this weekend because he's retiring for good. It was very good. It was awesome. It was a lot of fun to watch.
I heard something about wrestling. Oh, no, it's something old I saw.
Okay. Yeah, this happened on Sunday. So, like, this is, like, very fresh, very new.
Okay. That's good. It was fun.
Yeah, it was very fun. It was awesome. I'll have to show you some clips from it before you get off, because I definitely have some.
All right. Ready to move on to news?
Yeah, let's talk about some stuff, because there's a lot to talk about, I think.
All right.
And I think since we don't really have that much game-wise to talk about, it'll be easier to kind of expand on our news stories instead.
Yeah. Well, I think that, at least what I think was the biggest news this week, was Nintendo suing the creators of was Yuzu? Did I say
Yuzu, yep.
Yeah, emulator.
Yeah.
And then Yuzu ended up settling for
2.4 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I don't know.
There are some very interesting things that came out of this. I would like to hear your thoughts first.
My takes on it?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, here are my thoughts.
I have a feeling we're going to have very different takes on this.
Yeah, this is a topic that I think we always tend to not agree on.
Yeah.
Between you and myself.
Mm-hmm.
Here's kind of where my thoughts are on it. So, I understand that there is a role for emulation for certain things. I will say, though, like, the people who are like, I saw a post on Reddit yesterday where a guy's like, because of this, he's like, after 35 years, I am done with Nintendo now because of this. Okay. Yeah. Well, I understand that you're upset about it, and, you know, there's reasons why you might prefer an emulator to play games. But if that's your reason for being done with Nintendo, you've been done with Nintendo for a long time. Because, you know, it's like, basically, it sounds like the guy just wasn't paying for games anyways. So, and I think too, like, I think for me, like, my thing with emulators is I don't find too much value for them, and I know that there are reasons why people might want them, like when like the new stuff's out, but I don't find too much value for them, you know, when a system is like currently being supported and like actively having games made for it. Granted, like, you know, Switch stuff, you know, it is an outdated platform, and, you know, emulator allows you to do things like, you know, play with a better resolution and better frame rate and mods and whatnot. But like I said, at least in my mind, that place should come, you know, once it's not like an active thing. In Yuzu's case, though, I think the issue with this is, at least from what I've been reading, is they were like pretty egregious with what they were doing. Like, this wasn't your usual, like, here's your emulator and, you know, do whatever you want. Like, apparently they had a Patreon.
Did have apparently a Patreon. I can confirm that.
Apparently they were giving away games on their Patreon.
So So I'm not. So the giving away games on their Patreon part is something I've seen repeated. That is actually false information.
Is it?
However, I will give some more information. So
Hmm.
apparently, and this is not open to the public. It's not open to me or anyone that were to sub on their Patreon. What they were actually doing, which was still really shitty, was
Hmm.
the developers of Yuzu were taking and dumping their games and then sharing them within the rest that were in the actual development community. So people on the development front that were working on making Yuzu were using different people's dumped game copies that they had a repository of on Google Drive.
Wow.
That is fucked up. That
Hmm.
is not okay. That is not how that is supposed to work. That is actually piracy. That is actually a problem. That is actually an issue. And if that was proven, because all I'd seen was rumors, if that is actually proven, then yeah, that makes sense. The other thing is, and you know this, I know this. I already had fucking Tears of the Kingdom a week before release. I don't give a fuck. I'll say it. I don't give a
Yeah.
shit. I already bought the game also, so I also do not give a shit.
Hmm.
I had gotten a modded form of Yuzu, which allowed the game to run correctly at 60 FPS before the game even fucking released.
Hmm.
And I'd shown you this. I showed you this like
Yeah.
very like early, and you saw the whole thing, and I kind of explained to you that yeah, someone modded it and they were able to get past the decryption process, and anyone that had like any of the either dumped copies or what have you from preloading, or if they had gotten them offline or whatever, was able to play the game early by doing so.
Yeah.
And I explained this whole process and told you about it and whatnot and how it worked. Well, little did I know that that modded copy of Yuzu was actually made by the Yuzu devs and was being sent to people that sub to their Patreon. See,
Oh.
I got that modded copy from a Google Drive that just made its way to Reddit. It was like, okay, cool. Someone modded it so it could actually be played ahead of time. That's sick. That's awesome. Little did I know that someone was actually the Yuzu devs and they were charging for it on their Patreon. And that right there is what got them in so much hot water. The fact that they literally charged for a copy of Yuzu that was made specifically to play an unreleased game.
Yeah.
And that is what fucked them. It is quite
Oopsies.
literally the biggest issue that they had. I did some other research into Yuzu and found out that apparently they had been stealing code from other people and repackaging it supposedly into their emulator and trying
Hmm.
to get people to use their emulator instead, and then also charging people on Patreon for early access to new builds of their emulator. All of that stuff it goes against the like reason for emulation in the first place. Literally what
Yeah.
they were doing goes against emulation. And I do understand why Yuzu got taken down. I
Yeah.
understand it. I don't like it. I think it's awful because where you stand that, there's no real value in being able to play games that are currently out. I completely disagree because
I did not say what you just
okay,
said.
okay, all right, hold on. Please reword it then because I didn't say it the correct way. What would you say exactly would be how you thought about the emulation scene for Switch?
Well, like I said, I think I said that, I don't necessarily think it's like appropriate when it's like a current gen system, but
Hmm.
like I said, I do think that there's value there for people who are looking to play it with, for specific reasons. Like maybe they're
I
looking
thought you
for
said
higher
there was
resolution
like
or better
no point
frame
to
rate
it
or for modding.
for current gen. Okay, okay, I guess I just
Hmm.
misunderstood your main thing. But yeah, that's my main thing. Because you look at Switch, you look at current Switch right
Hmm.
now. The Switch hardware is so fucking bad that when I play Switch on, let's say, for instance, hypothetically, Yuzu, it feels like what it should be if I was playing Switch on the actual Nintendo Switch. You know how like when emulators first start out, they have like low frame rates and everyone's getting everything used to working on said emulator, and
Hmm.
you have to wait a while to catch up to the hardware. Right now, the hardware has to wait a while to catch up to the emulators, and that's unacceptable.
Well,
That's just
the
not
reason
right.
is probably because they probably stole code that they probably weren't supposed to.
Well, the code that they stole was between other emulator people, not specifically like Nintendo stuff. That's what I meant when I said stolen code.
Well,
The stolen
that's
code
what
was
my understanding was. That was Nintendo's ground for the lawsuit in the first place. That they were accusing them of using their code to run the emulator.
well, no, that's not the way I understood it. It was more of the fact that the emulator automatically decrypted games that were encrypted, and that actually is a problem as well. Because if this would have went to court and would have ruled in Nintendo's favor, which it didn't, they settled for two reasons. One, because they didn't want to get bled dry by Nintendo and their lawyers, and two, because if they would have went to court and it would have been ruled that Nintendo's in the right, then anything that decrypts software would be deemed permanently illegal, which would make it so these technologies and everything, people would just make better decryption for their software, or decrypt or encrypt every single piece of software ever released, to make
Mm-hmm.
it so that you can never preserve that game. So like, think for instance, if like some kind of form of DRM that was made using encryption based DRM or whatever was put onto a Game Boy Advance game, and way back in the day it was deemed illegal to decrypt software, that would literally mean you would never be able to play any of your Game Boy Advance games unless Nintendo told you that you could, and also unless Nintendo put them on their service. Which, here's another thing, and I've actually had this discussion with people already. If you look at the Nintendo online service, right? Because a lot of people are like, just use Nintendo's online service. They gave you that for a reason. They did that so that people wouldn't have to pirate their games. And my take for that, which is, are you fucking stupid? Because quite literally, you look at the Nintendo Switch online service right now, and I've done the math, by the way, because I've already had this conversation 4 times. The Nintendo Switch online service right now consists of 287 games.
Okay.
That's in 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
It took them 8 years to add 287 games to the Nintendo Switch online service. Nintendo's worst console in existence, besides the Virtual Boy, that ever existed, that sold the worst, that did the worst for the entire company, that almost put them on the brink of extinction, the Wii U, had
Okay.
over 300 games on their virtual console service in 4 to 6 years, whereas the Switch hasn't even met that in 8. Nintendo aren't doing anything to actually preserve their games, and they aren't going to do anything to actually preserve their games, and they've done this throughout the years multiple times, and they're going to continue to be like this. It literally, if they were to have it in their favor, like if it went to court and they were like, decryption software is 100% illegal, you cannot decrypt things, and they just encrypted every single one of their games from now on, you would never be able to play your Switch games again. Because damn well in the future, Nintendo is just going to be like, yeah, we don't support Switch games anymore. Yeah, we shut down the Switch service. You can no longer download and buy the games legally. I mean, have you looked at things like DS or 3DS games and the prices that they've jumped to? Because they're fucking ridiculous and stupid as shit.
Oh no, I know they're crazy, but to be fair, well, hey, the Wii U did not almost kill Nintendo. Um,
Mm,
they were sitting on like treasure troves of money, and they have been since at least
okay.
2000s.
All right. Fine.
So
Fine.
that system was not gonna
At least,
not gonna magically kill
at
them.
least from that statement was hyperbole. Okay, I'll
But
say, I'll give you that. But it was a absolute dog shit system, and it was one that did some of the worst for them in the entire industry.
yeah,
Can
but
we at
also
least
on the
agree on that? And then when you look at that, they did more for not emulation, but they did more for preservation on that system than they have on their flagship system.
yeah,
And
the
like,
big difference is I would say because you're like, oh, I had over 300 games. This was at what 287, I think you said.
287 in 8 years, whereas in 4 years before they introduced the Wii games that you could also get through backwards compatibility on
Mhm.
the Wii U, they were already at 317.
Yeah, but they also had DS games too,
They did have DS
and they
games,
had
and you know what
Commodore
they
games
don't have on the
and Neo Geo
Switch?
games.
You know what they don't have on the Switch because you're continuing to list them.
Well, no, I know those things aren't there, but I'm just saying, like, you're just, I don't know if those are actually fair comparisons because I don't think that the, honestly, I do not think that the Switch would be an ideal system to play DS games on. But, I mean, I'm sure there's probably ways you could.
Okay, you know what would have been a great way? Not shut down the fucking 3DS eShop.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I think that's too premature, but yeah, no, I mean, it's a mess for what it is. Yuzu's a mess, and it's one of those things. It's like, you know what? Wait a year, and nobody would have given a fuck. But it's because they went too crazy, right out the gate.
They did go too crazy out the gate because
Because
apparently in the thing, the head of Nintendo had spoken to someone who was playing Tears of the Kingdom early, and he
Mhm.
was like, "How the fuck do you get
Uh-huh.
that?"
Yeah.
But that also raises another point,
Mhm.
because I have a lot to say about this subject, and we have some time, so I'm going to say it. And the other point is, hey, where are these leaks of games coming from? Like, there seem to be leaking at a much faster rate than ever before with the Nintendo Switch, and maybe they should look at their internal, their
You mean
internal
like
I
you mean
think
like
an
how
ins
Tears of the Kingdom came out like a week
yeah,
earlier or whatever?
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, that's easy. That's easy to figure out. That's an easy answer. It's because it's shipping logistics. That's where it comes
Do
from.
you actually think it's that, or do you think that it might have been someone on the inside? Because here's the thing: if it
Hmm.
was Tears of the Kingdom, I got you. But it's been every single game on the Switch that releases a week, two, three, sometimes even a whole month early. That sounds more like someone on the inside that is doing this than it does, oh, they just shipped the games early and someone stole a copy from the back room and uploaded it online and happened to have a hacked Switch that they'd be able to dump the game with and knew how to get the files off and da da da. This sounds more like something that they need to internally look into as well, if they actually do, care as much about this as they're talking like they do. Because I
Yeah,
do feel like this is something that is not just a problem with um the shipping logistics like we were just talking about. I do think that someone on the inside at Nintendo is doing all of this.
no, I think it's someone post production. I think it's after the game goes gold, gets printed. I think
Like
someone
when
between
it's
that
being when it's
factory and the
being in the factory would still be part of like Nintendo's like uh production process though.
yeah, but it's not Nintendo's not like physically making them themselves. It's the same
No,
reason
no,
why
no, no,
like
no, 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 no,
systems
no, no,
get
no, no,
leaked
no,
out
no. You
beforehand.
you you misunderstand. When I was saying that, I meant like someone that specifically works for Nintendo in some
But
capacity,
they
or
don't. But they wouldn't
in
work for Nintendo in some capacity in the factory. Nintendo doesn't own the factories or the employees.
yeah, you're
So
right. You're right. You're right. You're
mhm.
right. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, so it's somewhere between. It's like the same thing with like guidebooks get leaked all the time.
Yeah.
System specs get leaked all the time. It's usually like, and especially depending on where you're making the things.
Hmm.
A lot of those factories are like the Wild West. Anything that goes there is going to get stolen.
Yeah.
So I would be inclined to say it's probably somewhere between there and then like the stores. But
It's more
even in my
likely the
experience with like
factory. That makes more sense now that you've
yeah
said it, and that does make sense because they don't directly have any ties to Nintendo. So yeah, that does make
yeah
more sense. Yeah.
yeah, and there's even other places where they can get done too. Like when I worked at GameStop, you would see like games would come in and they would sit there. Usually it'd only be like a couple days, but we've
Yeah.
definitely had games that were like sit in the back room for weeks.
Oh, I
And
remember
like
when Marvel vs. Capcom 3 came out. Like quite literally, my buddy a month early he gave me a copy that he got from Best Buy. I was like, "All right, cool. Let's play this shit."
yeah,
So,
and Nintendo will have stuff set on street date for forever. I remember
mhm.
there's games I can't even think of which one it was, and we had it sitting in our back room for like 3 weeks, and it was I don't remember which game it was. I just remember it being something that was like a remake or a re-release, anyways. And I was
Yeah.
like, why is this street dated? We've already played this game. Like, there's no surprises here. Um, but yeah, that's a lot of it. And and the mom and pop shops, like as soon as they get them in, a lot of times they would just sell it. They don't hold to street date a lot of
That is
times.
very true, but a lot of those people don't get them in like a month early. That was my main point.
Not
When
like
you
they
have
used
like,
to. They used
yeah,
to get
yeah,
them like
exactly,
ridiculously.
exactly. Like Switch, they're not. It's not happening in the Switch, but
Yeah.
this is happening during the Switch time, is what I'm saying. I'm not
But
talking about something that happened during the Wii or the 3DS or anything. I'm literally talking about something that's happening right now
yeah. My
during the
guess
Switch
is
release.
probably as things start to move more digital, I
Hmm.
bet we'll probably see them get a lot tighter about like physical copies because
Well,
there just won't be as much
I don't think there's going to be
pressure to have
physical
them there
copies,
early.
like, period.
Eventually, I think we're at least still another gen away from that.
I think we're like maybe a year and a half away from it. Because if you look in places like Target and Best Buy and Walmart,
Mhm.
they've already been removing all sorts of physical media.
Yeah, we're
So,
getting close. But
yeah.
I think we have at least one full generation where like physical's still going to be viable.
Hmm.
Um, and I bet you'll see them test the waters a bit more with these.
Well, we kind of
Um,
already have. Like Alan Wake and Hi-Fi Rush never got a physical release until it was announced for other consoles.
yeah,
So,
so yeah. And obviously PC's been doing fine with it for a long time.
this is very true. However, I do think there is something inherently different when it comes to PC because you have places like GOG, for instance. You have things like the active abandonware. You don't have that, and you have it actively fought back against by console makers. So, like for instance, abandonware for PC is when a game is no longer licensed, it cannot be sold by anything. There's no way to actually legally pay for the product. You can just download them from sites. You just can do that for free because no one actually owns the rights to them anymore, and there's nowhere for them to go. That's
Mhm.
a thing that happens, and it's actually got like a repository of all these games that are preserved. And many people make mods and everything to make them work on modern day hardware, and you're able to play those games by doing so.
Mhm.
And Nintendo, I can't even play 3DS games on Nintendo's modern hardware. You know,
Yeah.
I can't even play Nintendo's modern games on their modern hardware in some cases because of how poorly made they are. But my main point is like, yeah, I have a bunch of 3DS games. I can't play them anymore. I would have to buy a completely new 3DS that's been jacked up to like $400 fucking dollars at this point to play those, and then even then, I don't think you can download some things anymore, can you? Even if you purchase them.
No, downloads are still purchased downloads are still good. You
Okay.
can still re-download things that you've purchased in the past. You just can't get anything new that you haven't
Hmm.
had before.
So like if I wanted to get a game that I didn't have, then I'm shit out of luck unless I pay some Tom, Dick, and Harry that's charging like $500 for something that's just a cartridge. And I have no choice but to do that because that's the only option I have. And none of that
It's the
money goes
only
back to the original developers, and there's no way to actively support them anymore. So what the fuck is the point?
yeah,
And
it's the only legal means
that
to
is
do
my
it. Yeah.
other issue because here's the thing. Yuzu got shut down, but those developers also worked on another emulator in the past, and it
Hmm.
was the only 3DS emulator. So 3DS emulation also got shut down, and a lot of people aren't talking about that, and that really
No,
fucking
I didn't see
sucks.
that. Yeah.
Oh, that really, really fucking sucks because in this day and age, it's easier to emulate a 3DS than it is to find a fucking 3DS at an actual price worth paying for it.
Well, my
And
guess is the other thing with this
mhm,
kind of thing is because my understanding is, and you can tell me if I'm wrong on this
go
one,
on. Yeah.
but my understanding is even though they did have the Patreon
Hmm.
for their service, their work was open source.
It
So
was.
theoretically, someone could pick up and
And people are 100% already working on that.
yeah,
That is a thing. However, it doesn't mean that this sort of thing won't happen again, or Nintendo won't like be like, hey, we won once, maybe we
hmm
can just take it down because we feel like it
yeah.
instead of because we have reason to do so.
Well, and I
And I
think
think that in lies the precedent that was set and what is so harmful to things and is going to be
Mhm.
harmful to things in the future. Because, like you said, and like we just talked about, eventually it's not even going to be an option to buy physical. And when you can no longer buy physical, and the company fully is able to be like, nope, I won't even let you play this game digital that you used to have or on this new system or whatever, because I've taken away the license from you. Because we've seen that with Sony when they tried to take away the license to TV shows and games in the past and whatnot.
Mhm.
And we've seen that with other companies such as Microsoft doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And when you see stuff like that, then it's like, okay, well, with this going all digital future, do we have any control over if we actually get to continue to play these games?
Well, that's the question. I will say though, just kind
I
of, I
feel
guess.
like that personally is the reason why we need emulation. And I know you're talking about like games that exist now and everything, maybe they shouldn't make emulators based off them, but I disagree. I think they should make them based off of them. They should obviously be more what's the word I'm looking for? Not as
Narc.
dumb as Yuzu was, where they are
Yeah.
like a Patreon for this, that, and the other. Maybe don't do that, but they should make them, because in the future, when you have that technological advance and like that those systems are gone, you've already got a repository that's been made over the years of all those games that came out before they could have been taken offline and vaulted, Disney style by Nintendo or
Mhm.
Sony or Microsoft or whoever.
But
That's why I feel like emulation is important, even with modern consoles, if you can do so.
the
It's
thing
not
is
so
though,
much the act of emulating them at the time as it is creating something for the future.
but the thing is though,
Hmm.
and I think this is kind of, at least in my mind, this is kind of just the icing on the cake of what I was just talking about,
Yeah.
anyways. But to your point, you know, Nintendo didn't actively, as far as I've seen, go after the 3DS emulator. It just
No,
happened to be a
it got caught.
casualty
Correct. It got
because
caught in the crossfire. You're
yeah,
right.
because Nintendo doesn't give a fuck after it's an old system anymore, and that it's just kind of like I said,
That
wait a
is
year.
actively not
And
true. They have oftentimes been like,
when have you
you
seen?
know,
Tell me about a time you've seen them go after an old emulator.
let's see. Do 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 do.
Because I know I've definitely seen
June
them.
2nd, 2023, Nintendo has issued a cease and desist order against the Wii and GameCube emulator Dolphin. The cease and desist does
Oh,
not
but that
allow
was the
them to
Steam
launch.
thing. That was when they were trying to launch it on Steam.
Yeah, and it wasn't paid for. It was just another way to be able to download the thing. Like,
No, that was a different issue. That that's completely different. Like they didn't stop the emulator from anywhere else, right? It's still available.
let's see. No, emulator.
Yeah, they have the
Yeah,
Dolphin emulator page is
they're
there. I
still
can.
available. They are
Yeah,
still available. Yes, 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 yes.
yeah. That's it. I can't think of any time where they've actively gone out of their way to stop an old emulator. The only thing I can think of them going after, like for old things, is when people are actively distributing ROMs,
Uh-huh.
or when they do that stupid shit like Bowser did, where they're like, "Hey, here's this thing that like actively like circumvent piracy."
Well, they
That's
they
kind of
were they
fun.
were modding consoles.
Yeah,
That's what Bowser was doing.
yeah. But like
Uh,
I said, at least the emulator stuff, I can't think of them
well,
ever.
the main reason I brought up the Dolphin one, right,
Uh huh.
specifically for that case, is if you look at like other emulators on Steam, they do exist on Steam, and that is a case of Nintendo specifically being like, "Don't do this." When Sega, PlayStation, all these others that are on Steam that are old emulators, they they didn't stop them from doing it. They didn't step up and like be like, no, you can't do this. They didn't issue a cease and desist. And that's the reason why I brought this up just in general. It does seem to be a thing that Nintendo in any capacity is trying to get rid of. And obviously they can't in some capacities, such as like what I talked about with fucking we just talked about how Dolphin is still on their page,
Hmm.
the original creators page. But like for instance, to make it easier and more accessible to people, such as through being able to just download it on Steam, they did actively work against that, and that is something that you can see happened, but the other companies did not. And that was my main point for bringing that up, because I do feel like when you take away the accessibility of something, that is you making an effort towards not allowing it to exist.
Yeah, but did it really take away the accessibility of this?
In some cases, yes, it would have been far more accessible to other people if it was through Steam easily. It also would have made it a lot easier to set it up to run on things such as the Steam Deck. But that is essentially all they took away. You just have to jump through a bunch of hoops now in order to run it on Steam Deck instead. But it would have been a lot simpler and more accessible if it was able to do something like that, such as like what DuckStation is able to do and what like the N64 emulators are able to do, and this, that, and the other, and all these other things. They did specifically choose Dolphin, and I feel like they did that because of the fact that it was the same year that they released the Metroid Prime remake. But that's just my thoughts on the whole matter.
Yeah, and the other thing is too, like I said, they just were like, hey, we don't want you on Steam.
Yeah.
But I said, the emulator is still there.
Yes, it is still there. I was talking about how accessible it is to those, because it is a little bit daunting for some people when you look at like a download page or whatever, and you have to figure out, oh, where do I put this stuff and that stuff to make this run correctly, as opposed to Steam where it's like I click the download button and it's set up. You know what I'm saying? There is definitely a ease of access compared to what we have now and to what we could have had if it wasn't for the cease and desist.
How difficult is it to install it on a computer?
It's not that it's difficult. It's setting up to run with like your controller or this, that, and the other, or setting it up to read things like you would have been able to see if someone was playing it on Steam at that moment in time and what they were playing, and there would have been a lot more options if people were able to actually use it through Steam and it was officially usable through Steam. And I guess that's my main point.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. Because I was saying, I'm like, maybe it's just because I'm so used to a Mac, but last time I installed something, it literally is just like open.
No, it's so Steam has this backend, right, that makes it essentially where if you were to install something and it has controller support, Steam will recognize that already and set it up for you. That is also something that's built into the Steam Deck, and also people can share their own, not sell, but share their own controller layouts for any individual game, which makes it a lot more accessible whenever someone is playing a game that, say, doesn't have native controller support. Someone can design that for them, and that would have been something that could have been designed very easily for something like the Dolphin emulator, which would have made things easier for the player if it was on Steam. And that was that's my main takeaway from it.
Yeah, that makes a little bit more sense. But I don't know. Yeah.
No, like I said, you are right, and I have agreed with you on quite a few things, and I did share my feelings on the whole Yuzu thing and whatnot. But I think we both have kind of come to we do agree with each other on quite a lot of points here.
Yeah, I don't think we're terribly far off.
No, not really.
Things. No.
Yeah, not really. I do hate that the 3DS emulator got caught in the crossfire. That one's what upsets me way more than anything. To be
no, and that makes more sense because, like I said, and even kind of with my own points, it's one thing if it's a current gen system. It's another thing if it's an old unsupported system. Like,
listen, I want to be able to play Persona Q, and I don't want to pay $400 for each cartridge. What? That's my main takeaway. Yeah, I know, right? I don't want to pay $200 for the system and $400 for 2 different cartridges. My God, who would have guessed? Oh, wait. But what about the developers? Yeah, they don't see a cent of that money. Fucking Stevie Wonder bullshit sees it at eBay, and that's if the cartridge he's even selling me is legitimate or not. And I also think therein lies a problem with secondhand selling and everything. I do think in some cases that shit can be more harmful than just emulation, because someone may just be making a fake copy of something of Nintendo's and passing it off as legitimate and then selling it at a massive scalped price essentially, and making a lot of profit off of something, claiming it's a legitimate Nintendo cartridge when it isn't. And when you emulate something, you're like, yeah, I know this isn't legitimate, but also I'm not paying for it, and also I'm not potentially taking money from anyone because I can't buy this anymore. And also I'm not potentially giving money to someone that is making money off of fake cartridges. And I guess that's another thing that I always think about when it comes to emulation as well.
Yeah,
Because
and those are very different things. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's one thing to be like, hey, I want to play this game that has not been produced in
yeah,
X amount of time, and there's no legitimate way for me to buy it. Versus,
like, do you know the price of Pokemon Black 2 right now? Like the going rate for Pokemon Black 2?
no, I mean I don't know the going rate. I guess it would probably be somewhere between $70 and $100.
350.
Is that like fully like packaged and sealed?
No,
No. What is it? Just
no.
like loose cartridge?
So loose cartridge can go for between 179 and like 250, depending on the quality of the cart and everything. And then if you have the case and the manual and whatnot, about $350. It's stupid. It's really stupid.
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay,
I believe one sold like
website.
yesterday for like 269, and that was with like a water damaged case.
Oh, it says the complete price is 168.73.
Are you on what do you call it?
Price starting.
Price charting? Yeah.
Mhm.
Hold on. Because they don't
Oh, I'm looking at
make
black.
it
I don't know.
fast enough.
White could be maybe a different price,
Wait, are
but
you looking at black 2 or the original black?
I'm looking at black too.
Okay, so sold yesterday. Black 2 singular cartridge, 135 damage, 120 also damage to the label.
Are we looking at the same
The
website?
case and manual's $49.99, 140 for just the cart.
Mm-hmm.
This one sold for $44.99, and I don't think it's real. This one sold for 140. This one 120. Okay, so just cart is between like 120, 150. Cart and case and all that good jazz is the one that's more expensive.
Okay.
There's a lot of reproductions though on here. Like I definitely see some fakes that sold for like $40.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. It looks like white 2 is slightly cheaper if you want a loose one, but more expensive if you want it complete. So
What?
that's a
What is
very
that one
slightly
at?
cheaper. Its loose price is 120, but its complete price is 170. So
Interesting.
mhm.
It's just like it's so much. It's so much money for no reason.
The thing is, though, the smart people sell it now. That's the time to do it before Nintendo has enough sense to re-release them again, which is inevitably going to happen. So,
Oh, you mean like how they skipped over and went straight to X and Y instead?
I have to tell you, I was thinking about it this week. Like, I am like, that is the most hyped I've been for a game coming out in a long time.
It
I'm
is another
still like,
Legends game, and you know how I feel about the Legends games. I think they're better than what we have Pokemon wise right now.
I'm like so fucking excited. Like I was thinking about it all week, and I'm like, yes. I'm like, I cannot wait for this game. And only a year left. Yeah, no, they're great. I'm like stoked. My guess is though, I was thinking about it. I bet with Nintendo's next system, I think that they're going to add features to it so that they can do, DS or 3DS backwards compatibility.
You
and
really
games
need
backwards
to, because
compatible.
here's the thing. I still have a bunch of 3DS games purchased on my Nintendo account. The one that they wrapped into my Switch account before they
Mhm.
closed up the eShop.
Yeah.
So maybe they should fucking do something with that. You know what I mean?
Well, they need to. But I think the issue is more, hey, the Switch definitely cannot run 3DS games well. It can be done, but even if you look at the people who have like hacked their Switch to like get them running on there, it just the hardware is not powerful enough to really do them justice.
So that doesn't
So,
make any sense because like people are running the emulators or were running the emulator for 3DS on like Android phones. You know what I mean?
yeah, it might just be the optimization of the emulator on the
Yeah,
Switch.
and then maybe that means Nintendo needs to fucking emulate their shit better.
So you got that thing, but the
Or at
other,
least
I think
make an effort.
the more like the more
Mhm,
what's the bigger holdback? That's the better way
mhm.
to put it. Bigger holdback is more of the just like the system. I think missing features that would make it better to play on the Switch. Because I don't think you have, aside from handheld and doing it
Uh-huh.
sideways, you don't really have any great way to do like the two screen games. It's kind of I think
So,
the issue with a
so
lot
the
of the Wii U stuff
emulators
too.
actually had solved that problem, and it actually worked really, really well, and I can explain that. the sticks that you could click in, right? On
Hmm.
like the say for instance you hooked up an Xbox controller to it or something, or you
Yeah.
had it on the Steam Deck. Each time you clicked in the stick, you could swap between either screen.
Oh,
So
that's
you
gross.
no, hold on. Let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish. Okay. And if you clicked it in 3 times, you could have both screens on at the same time. However, the touchscreen, since the touchscreen for the most part on every single game was very seldomly used, and when it was used sparingly, the touchscreen element of it, which the Switch does have, by the way, the Switch does have a touchscreen.
Hmm.
It was in a smaller box, whereas there was a bigger box for the main screen of the game,
Yeah.
and you could actually just touch onto the smaller box and use the touchscreen commands that you needed to inside the smaller box, while the bigger screen over on the left to the side of that smaller box allowed you to see the actual game in play at that moment in time
Mm.
from its main screen. And it worked incredibly well. Like incredibly well. It worked so well. It was so easy to like swap back and forth items in like Majora's Mask using the touchscreen in like a smaller box, and then just immediately go straight into the game on the main screen that was also on the screen at the same time. And a lot of people actually kind of enjoyed it more when it was like games that didn't use much of the touch screen through emulation, because of the fact that it was more streamlined. And I personally thought that was cool for several games, the ones that weren't that important when it came to the touch screen. Think of your Pokemons or whatever, where it's like, oh, you
Yeah,
can just touch the touch
those games
screen
make a
to
little
do
bit
like a
more
thing like
sense.
that, or
Hmm.
like where it's like a menu for like your inventory or whatever. And I thought that was a really neat touch that worked very well. And I do see that something like that, which what are you going to get on your Nintendo Switch, you know, hypothetical 3DS emulation whenever that comes out, if it ever does, or Switch to 3DS emulation. You're going
Hmm.
to have your Zeldas, you're going to have your this, that, and the others, and those don't really use that much input on the bottom screen. And a lot of games didn't really use that much input on the bottom screen. You choose those games, you set it up to run that way, and you do that. It's like, it's simple. It's not that difficult. And people have already given you the idea because they've already done it for you elsewhere. So you just copy that. Like
My guess is though
it's
they'll
right
probably
there.
make it so you could just actually have like a two-screen solution. That's what I think.
Where they
I
like
think
cut the bottom in the half, theoretically, like in half, using like some type of virtual thing or whatever, and then you have 2 screens that way, because you
I,
would still have a bigger screen than the original 3DS by doing that.
I think they'll either. This is my thought. If they're going to go with something similar to Switch, which you kind of imagine, just that this next system will probably be like some sort of iterative
Hmm.
platform. I think they'll either if they were going to make it so you could play 3DS games on it. I think that's also important. Like if that's something that was like one of their goals. I think we'll give you the option to either play the Switch.
Hmm.
They might do some option like you're saying. Like I'm not saying that they won't.
Yeah.
Because they've definitely exhibited some of that with like the Wonderful 101 uses like a similar solution, for example, where it was a Wii U game, but it has the second screen tied to like a button command so you can switch back and forth. Um, so they could go with something an option like that.
Hmm.
I could see them making it so that turning the switch onto the side so you can play it like long ways
Hmm.
to do the two screens that way so you
Hmm.
have the full real estate there. I could see them doing that, but I think the big thing is I think they'd want it to do it so that you could do it on the TV as well, and I think that there will be a solution for that. That's what I
Mm,
think. And I think the other thing is that I think that they're going to add buttons to the Joy-Cons so that they can do GameCube because I think that's one of the other factors holding back some of that re-releasing as well.
okay.
Because at least the way it is right now, GameCube games aren't as dumb as it is, aren't necessarily, I would think, easy to get running on the Switch for just some of the buttons that are missing because it doesn't have the fancy triggers. You can't do like the pressure kind of sensitive trigger stuff,
Hmm.
which a lot of GameCube games utilized. Like
Yes, like a lot of the main games even
mhm,
utilize, like for instance, like your Mario Sunshine.
yeah, And that game, they were able to get around it just by being like, all right, it's either all on or off, just deal with it.
Yeah.
But you think about things like F-Zero, like depending on how fast you're going on there, controls your speed, or like Eternal Darkness, depending on how you press in the buttons, depending on how you do things. So I think that those are kind of maybe two things that they would probably internally want before they start
Yeah, that
doing
makes
those
sense.
more often. Makes it a little easier. Also, too, it'd give them the options to get out the rest of the Wii U stuff that maybe still was lingering around with it, as not as much work needed for it. But Nintendo seems to, and I think it's been very apparent this generation. They definitely have. I think they've been moving more towards the let's make it so all of our games are available kind of thing. I think they're very slow at it, because I don't disagree. Like, it's something I've bitched about for probably 3 generations now, about how slow Nintendo is to support like their old system releases, like those re-releases, like Virtual Console and things.
Mm-hmm.
But I've noticed that with this gen, there's been a very pointed effort to getting things that would not necessarily have gotten any extra life, to give them to get them back out again. Like, you think about it, stuff like another code, like Trace Memory. Like, it's kind of like, who the fuck asked for this game? But it's kind of one of those, like, them looking at their old software and being, let's make this available. Things like Miiverse, where you're like, not Miiverse, Miitopia. That's the game I'm looking for. That weird 3DS game. Like, why would you bother to port that to the Switch? It just seems like they want it available. And then even some of like the other remasters that they've done, like Advance Wars and Mario vs. Donkey Kong, and there's another one that just came out. Mario RPG, which wasn't necessarily super accessible because it never released in Europe originally. So just getting kind of those things out and doing it again. But yeah. So I don't know. It seems like they're moving more towards that, but I don't know. I guess we'll really know when they unveil more.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Do you have any other news?
I mean, I talked about before the Sweet Baby Inc. thing, which
Mm-hmm.
I will slightly reference here and talk about.
Yeah.
So Sweet Baby Inc. is essentially a consultant firm that is used to diversify and make things more inclusive in gaming, and they've been running for several years now, but it came out recently after someone was fed up with like how dull their games have been, how awful they've been in general that they've worked on, that they just wanted to make a Steam curator page that alerted people to if that company had worked on games. And they used their official website, like Sweet Baby Inc.'s, as the reference point for the games that they worked on, because it's there and it's proudly written on their website what games they worked on. And so they started listing all of those games on Steam to alert people so they can make the decision to avoid them if they choose to do so. One of the employees of this company got wind of this, and they decided to use their push in the industry to attempt to get people to mass report and flag this person's Steam account, as well as the curator page, to get them permanently banned from Steam because it hurt their feelings that this person existed.
Mm-hmm.
This started in a massive Streisand effect, where people found out that this same exact person had pushed someone to game over themselves because of their harassment, the Sweet Baby Inc. employee. They had also essentially used fear-mongering tactics on developers to get themselves in the door so that they would work with them, and then would hijack the actual script of several games and write it their own way instead, forcing them to work with them and getting themselves paid by doing so. These same people also had very homophobic and racist things written on their profiles and stuff like that on Twitter. Just awful shit. Like, essentially people found and screen capped a lot, and they kind of pulled a "is this you?" where they showed them that a lot of the people that were working for them are just kind of bullies that want control more so than people that actually want an inclusive and diverse environment for the gaming industry. And that kind of really sucked. So more and more shit started coming out, and then people started realizing that these people have been working in the industry for quite a while, and all of the worst games that you can think of are kind of done by them.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, some of the things that Sweet Baby Inc. have worked on: Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, Forspoken, the new Saints Row reboot, all massive, massive, massive flops. Now, they have worked on some hits and some really good games as well, but they had smaller involvements in those games. But the ones they were able to actually kind of elbow their way into and take over writing, the writing of it entirely, are all games that have gone very, very poorly for the developer, and they've just kind of exploited them, made a bunch of money off of it, and then ran away and again. And that's what they've been doing, and it really sucks. And the people that work for them are also awful human beings. Like, for instance, someone found a keynote speech from the Game Developers Conference in 2019, GDC, as it's called. And one of the people that were doing the keynote speech is the head of Sweet Baby Inc. And she said that if people don't see a use for them, you should go directly to your marketing team. And you should sit down and have a coffee with them. And then you should just lay into them and terrify them until they see that they have a use for Sweet Baby Inc. to come in and help them. They used all these like tactics that are incredibly exploitative and incredibly like toxic and horrible behavior to get themselves in the industry, and they've been kind of ruining it from the sidelines for quite a number of years now, and people have finally found out these people exist and have been pulling the strings on a lot of major titles that end up being massive flops. And a lot of the time it's because they got way too much control of that and they get to decide what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a whole thing that came out this week, and it's pretty shitty, honestly.
Yeah. Yes, it is. But at least now it's out there. People know.
It is out there, and the Streisand effect is in full effect, so to speak, right now. So
yeah. What other news do you have? Anything else?
Yes. So, Gravity Rush 2, as well as Ghost of Tsushima, should be releasing on PC soon. There's supposed to be an announcement in the next few weeks, according to several leaks and data that was found online, that essentially some of those big titles for PlayStation 4/5 are going to be making their ways to PC very, very soon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just Until Dawn. Much like the president of Sony said, they're going to be aggressively working towards porting more of their games, and this is just two more that we have recently found out about. Nothing's been made official yet, but it's pretty much unofficially official because the actual data as well as testing of the game has been found already, and people know that a PC version of these games exist. So yeah, Gravity Rush 2 is a great game if you've never played it, and it's awesome that it's coming to PC. And
I've not played the first one, or I've not played the second one.
It's really good. And another thing, Ghost of Tsushima is excellent. It is a great open world game and probably one of Sony's best. So if you haven't played Ghost of Tsushima, you absolutely should.
Yeah, there's a rumor not Nintendo. Sony bought a studio related to
releasing games on PC. That one, or are we talking about something else?
Who did they buy? Supposedly Arrowhead.
Oh, okay. Those are the people that made Helldivers too. That game's excellent, by the way. Yeah. That hasn't been confirmed yet. I kind of hope it doesn't, because the developers at Arrowhead are super fucking cool and have done some crazy shit for that game already. I don't know if you are aware, but there is a place called Melvorn Creek in Helldivers 2 where there was a pushback from the automatons, and people that were playing the game were all uniting together and going to that one area on the map to try to stop them from taking it. And the fights there were described as space Vietnam.
Okay.
And it then came out that after that, one of the developers has a job that is literally just essentially a D&D master, where they control what's happening in the online space of the game at all points in time. So like they can send reinforcements to fuck over the actual players if they want to be a massive dick. And they did do so in order to make that place fall when everyone was fighting for it. So they made that like an all-out war to have like a really cool and interesting like live service experience that isn't
Mm-hmm.
just bullshit, where it actually feels like it's a living, breathing world, like something is going on and there is events taking place at this, that, and the other times, and you can be parts of these massive events and not just have it be tied to like, oh, I missed the battle pass. And that's not how this game works. And they showed that you can make a live service game that doesn't use those kind of like FOMO tactics, and instead allows you to play through these events and experience them if you are an active player. So that was super cool.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's another thing we found out. So that's one of the good things.
Mm-hmm.
And then also like the devs are like super like nice at Arrowhead. So I kind of hope that Sony doesn't get them, so they can continue being the way they are.
Oh, okay. Hopefully. I mean, I'm sure they won't just go in there and lay off all the staff.
Exactly. That's why I hope Sony doesn't get them, so they don't do that again. History doesn't repeat itself.
Any other news?
I don't think I got anything.
Only other thing I have left, just a couple rumors. I think we talked about it super briefly last week, but upcoming, just after this podcast releases, is Mario Day. Mario Day is March 10th, because if you write out Mar and then 10, it spells out Mario. So there's rumors that something is coming this week. From what it sounds like, it's not going to be like a direct, but probably maybe just shadow dropping new trailers. It sounds like maybe. So rumor is new Paper Mario trailer, Thousand Year Door, new Luigi's Mansion trailer, the second one, the re-release that we're supposed to be getting this year. My guess is probably both of those will have a trailer and a date associated with it, because they both could use both of them. And then the last thing is that supposedly there is a demo of Princess Peach Showtime coming out probably this week as well.
Okay, that's cool.
Or at least announced this week with the Mario Day stuff. So they all come from a pretty reliable leaker who probably just got them from YouTube videos anyways. So odds are they're probably real things just waiting to get announced. So yeah, so I guess you'll know if it's true or not probably around the time that you listen to this. But honestly, it makes total sense. Nintendo's already been being like, hey, did you know for Mario Day you can play Mario Brothers on the NES on NSO? That was yesterday. Today is you can play Mario World on the NES or SNES on NSO. So my guess is probably later towards the week they'll be like, oh yeah, Luigi's Mansion 2 is coming out. Here's a new trailer. And it seems like it's about the right time, because they've been honestly just kind of slowly trickling out trailers for the Peach game. So those are there. I think they've done like 2 more over the last couple months that weren't related to like direct or anything. They just kind of like, hey, here's some new abilities that she has or whatever. But yeah, so look forward to that. I mean, 2 of them are games you already know, so you can just be like, hey, it looks so nice. But I actually, the one thing I do actually want that demo. It's a game where I probably will end up buying it, but I do want to play it and see if it's dumb. And also, too, we don't know who made this game still, like which studio. People seem to think it's Goodfeel, but we might have a better idea once the demo's released. That usually seems to be how they find these things out. They'll either have it in like the like copyright like notice, like, hey, this is property of Nintendo and whatever. But I think Feel Good, Good Feel, is it? Which way does it go? Feel Good, Good Feel.
What?
The way the game Good Feel, I think is what it is. Yeah,
Good Feel.
Yeah, that's the name of the studio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, name of the studio, Good Feel. They made Yoshi's Crafted World, Kirby's Epic Yarn.
That one's good.
Yeah. It should be pretty good.
Woolly World was good.
Yeah, Woolly World's good. They did that too. Woolly World was excellent. Crafted World was okay. It just really had shitty ass music.
So wait, they're making what game now?
The rumor is they might be working on the Princess Peach game because Nintendo hasn't announced who's working on it. They've been doing this a lot lately. Like if you remember, we didn't know who made the Mario RPG remake until like just before it came out.
That's true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're much more tight-lipped about their individual studios and which ones are working on like games. So we won't really know until it probably gets a little closer. But it makes sense. You know, I think the last I don't even know the last two games. They have not really had anything come out recently. Where is it?
From the looks of it, their last game was Crafted World.
Their last kind of major game. It looks like maybe they had a game called Monkey Barrels.
Yeah, I don't know what this is though.
Or this very Japanese game, which I'm not even gonna pretend to like.
It's on Steam.
What is?
Monkey Barrels.
Oh, Monkey Barrels. Yeah, it's a Switch and Windows game, so you can play it any way you want.
It looks like a very indie title. This is a whole lot of nothing.
I have a feeling that unless Nintendo is like,
it might be fun.
Holding their hand, I bet they're probably a very indie-ish studio. They've had some like fun stuff though, like Wario Land Shake It, very cool game.
Oh, whoa! I heard this game is awesome, actually.
Which one?
Their game that they released in 2023, Otage Katsugi.
Oh, the Japanese game?
Yes, that. There were people that were buying this through Play Asia to play this one, I believe. This one looks really good. I heard good things about this game, I think. Apparently, it was a lot like Mystical Ninja Goemon.
Uh-huh.
Like, that's what it was.
It looks like it.
Yeah.
Very much so. I've pulled up a thing with it.
Yeah, I would actually honestly love to play this game. It looks great.
I probably would think it was Mystical Ninja if I did not know.
This game looks awesome. I actually kind of want to play this. I'd play this if this released in the US.
Yeah, this review actually is pretty good. This Nintendo Life gave it an 8 out of 10.
Oh, wait. This studio was founded by the members who created the Goemon series at Konami.
Oh,
there you go.
Mm-hmm. And it says a spiritual successor to Ganbare Goemon.
Well, there you go. There it is. Mm-hmm. I want to play that game. Maybe not Princess Peach, but I want to play that game.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's like difficult to import it. I mean, it's probably just on the eShop. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I guess my point is like, I wonder if there's a lot of text that's Japanese that would make the game more difficult to play.
The review I saw said there's no English option.
Well, I know that.
It looks like it's just like an action game, though. So
exactly. That's what I was thinking. Like, would it be difficult to understand it, or would it be easy because it is an action game? That was my main take.
Yeah, your most difficult part would just be navigating the menus.
Mm-hmm.
I would think.
Yeah, probably.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking into that one in the future because that one looks like fun, and that came out last year.
Yeah, it looks like.
I guess if like the Goemon team is working on the Princess Peach game, that could actually be pretty fucking good.
Yeah. I mean, that Princess Peach game doesn't look like it's bad. It's just that I
don't think it's. I haven't seen enough for me to.
Yeah, I just don't know what it is
yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of my thing on it too. Like if it's like some of their other stuff, probably would be assuming it's that studio. If it's like some of the other stuff they've done, then they probably will be pretty fine. But I don't know. We'll find out. The game comes out in less than a month too. So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's coming out.
Yeah. Anything else to talk about before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I think we covered a lot here today, actually.
We did. A lot more than I figured we would.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do it. Well, thank you everyone for listening to us tonight. Don't forget you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Amazon, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. We're there. You also check out our website, game-crunch.com. It has all of our old episodes available there. If you want to reach out to us as well, you can send us an email, gamecrunchcast@gmail.com. Brandon.
Hello.
Any final thoughts?
Nah, I'm good.
Okay. Well, that said, my name is Mike Anastasia. You can find me online. I'm Clash of Penguin there, or on your favorite gaming console. And until next week, game on.
Game on. Just got home?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Fresh off the boat.
The boat.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you take to get home from work? A boat?
Mm-hmm. A cruise ship.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait. What's the... What's the opposite of that?
Of a cruise ship?
No, of making sense.
Oh, a nonsensical.
Yeah, there you go. That's nonsensical.
Mm-hmm.
Nonsensical cruise ship.